Well, what a way to get back to Premier League football. Welcome back to Saints Live. I'm Kenzie, Benali, and myself, Steve Forbes, and our guests, Dean Hammond and Adam Leitch, will be talking you through that 3-0 win over Norwich. A really, really positive start. Guys, what did you make of that performance?
Excellent. Really, really good performance. Really professional performance. The way you'd want to start this mini season. I must admit, the team and the players looked a little bit rusty the first probably 10-15 minutes, and Norwich started pretty brightly with a few corners, a few dangerous situations. But after that, after 20 minutes, Southampton completely controlled the game, exploited the space in behind, counter-attacking with pace, very, very aggressive on and off the ball, and very clinical in their finishes. So a really impressive performance by the players. Should give them real confidence now going into the remainder of the season, and puts us in a fantastic position with 8 games left.
Yeah, I mean, the perfect start, really. I mean, you just could not have asked for any better. I mean, I would say Norwich were generous. They were, really quite terrible, but you still got to put them away. And after a long period off, Saints could have been rusty. They could have been poor as well, but they weren't. They were fantastic. I think that aggression that Dean mentioned was very notable throughout the game. They didn't take their foot off the gas at all. Perhaps a bit of rustiness in the first 10 minutes, and perhaps that's when Norwich were kind of a bit more eager. But it didn't take much at all for Saints to kind of wrestle control of that game. And in the end, you began to think, well, just how many might Saints score here? I mean, it was so incredibly one-sided. Norwich, to be honest, the last 20-25 minutes, some of their players looked like they'd completely given up. It was remarkable, really, given the sort of rallying talk that they'd given before the game. But you also have to credit Saints, because that real intensity, and we spoke about it before the game, that intensity might just be enough to overwhelm Norwich. It really was, and they didn't let go from sort of front to back, basically, for the whole game. And I think the way that they overran the midfield, they sort of managed to create a lot of 2-on-1 situations when closing down the ball. And Norwich just looked lost because of that, and in the face of that intensity. And it was just an absolutely perfect start.
Yeah, the game seemed like quite an open one. And as you said, the lack of intensity from Norwich, do you think that played into Saints' hands then?
Well, I mean...
Yeah. Sorry, go on, Adam.
Yeah, like I say, it had to have done, really. But kind of Saints, I did feel Saints earned that as well a little bit. I wonder if maybe Norwich kind of felt fairly up for it at the start, which is why we saw the beginning. But then the more Saints pressured them, and the more they kind of found themselves on the back foot, and they were the masters of their own downfall a lot of the time. They were giving the ball away cheaply. But then Saints got in their faces, continued to get in their faces. And I think that pressure just told on them. And in the end, they kind of mentally, as much as physically, really kind of capitulated in the face of that. And, all credit to Saints, and also to Ralph for the team he picked and the way he put them out. Because, I mean, it worked absolutely perfectly for them.
I totally agree, Adam. I mean, they exploited the space in behind. I mean, Norwich... They play with a slow build-up. They risked the ball. They almost, Southampton, we almost stole the ball off on many occasions in the first half and second half. And their fullbacks play really high when they're attacking. So that space in behind for the strikers to run into, for the wingers to exploit, just played into Southampton's hand with the space, the creativity and the energy. I mean, the one thing I really did notice, Southampton players look really fit, really, really strong. Whatever they've been doing in training, whatever they've been doing during the lockdown has really worked. So the credit needs to go to the coaching staff and the players in that, because they look sharp. After from 20 minutes onwards, when Jack Stevens stole the ball in the middle of the pitch, drove forward and slid Danny Ings in to hit the crossbar. From that moment on, Southampton were in pure control, and the openness just played into their hands.
Well, we've had a number of fans getting in touch already, and many of them echoing the thoughts really of you, Dean, and Adam as well. David Barker, who's watching on YouTube, has said Saints were a class above Norwich tonight, could have been 6. Ings and Redders stood out for me. Can't decide though who should be up front with Ings for the next game. Discuss. So we absolutely want to invite your questions as well as your comments. So that's an interesting point from David there. How would you answer that one, Dean, Adam?
Well, I would always, I'm a bit old school in this, if a team's just won a game, I would keep the same team. They just performed particularly well. The players have earned that shirt. The two boys that played up front today worked extremely hard, forming a little bit of a partnership as well, which helps. So they look really, really dangerous, really, really fit, really strong. Granted, Norwich looked a bit flat. The timings of the goal really helped Southampton settle them down. But I'm always one for, if you perform well, if you've won, you would keep the shirt.
I would normally tend to agree. I guess a little bit for me would depend on whether Shane Long was fit for the Arsenal game. Obafemi, he's a young lad, Obafemi. He's very young, he's very raw, he's a great talent, there's no doubt about it, and he's got some amazing attributes, but he's still learning the game. I think you saw that a few times today. Saints managed to get themselves quite a few kind of 2-on-1 type situations a few times with Obafemi on the ball, and just a kind of little lack of experience, maybe little lack of composure, maybe cost them, potentially even more goals today. And I think that's that's completely fine and understandable, because Obafemi's on a learning curve at the moment. But I wonder if when you're playing a bigger team like Arsenal, you're unlikely to get quite so many opportunities like that, and whether maybe just that kind of extra experience in those situations that Shane Long would bring might be a better decision. But like Dean said, it's a winning team, and so you couldn't really argue if Ralph stuck with it again.
Yeah, Obafemi didn't manage to get on the score sheet today, but Ings, Armstrong and Redmond did. How important were the timings of those goals when they came in the match?
Yeah, hugely. Especially, Danny Ings just after half time. I can imagine in the dressing room the instructions from Southampton were start quick, start bright. We're in control of the game now. Continue how we finished the first half. Exactly what they did, on the front foot, with energy, pressing the ball, winning it in Norwich's half, and just a fantastic finish. And then to repeat it in such a short space afterwards, I think that's the reason why Norwich was so flat. They had two killer blows very quickly together. And when you're 2-0 down, it can be a dangerous scoreline, but getting the third, and that was an excellent finish as well, from a break that they broke with pace. The attacking players were exceptional today. So the 3 goals, the timing of it, really, really good, really effective, and probably the reason why the game was so comfortable in the end for Southampton.
And at 2-0 as well, Norwich sort of had kind of almost a chance, didn't they, where Pukki might have done a little bit better. And like Dean said, it's always kind of that weird one, but you kind of felt like Norwich were really hoping that something would happen, that they'd get a goal, and that maybe that would shift the momentum, or maybe Saints would start getting nervous and panicking. But you never really felt that Norwich had any confidence they were going to be able to do that. It was sort of a hope in that kind of, well, we've got a puncher's chance, we're on the pitch, so we might score a goal. As soon as Saints got the third, that was obviously it, done and dusted, and they pretty much gave up at that point, Norwich.
Dean, you said there that the attacking players were exceptional tonight. It was another particularly impressive night for Danny Ings. We've got a great stat here. He's now become the first Southampton player to score more than 15 Premier League goals in a single season since James Beattie scored 23 in the 2002-2003 season. And we've had a fan comment here from Elia who says, wow, Danny Ings sure is going for that golden boot and is certainly putting himself in the next England squad, which kind of leads us on nicely to our next topic chat, really. Do you think he's kind of putting himself in the frame for England, and does he deserve to be?
He has to be, for the amount of goals he's scoring, for the type of goals he's scoring, his all-round performance in terms of his movement. He has clever movement. His positional play is really good. He understands where he needs to be as a striker to try and score goals, to be in them positions. He's very clinical, and it's nice to see him play. He's playing with a smile on his face. He looks like he's comfortable in his environment. He's happy. And from his performance tonight, he set the tone. In that first 5 minutes when Norwich were having a few corners, crossing the ball, entries into Southampton's box, he made a fantastic challenge at the back post, which set the tone of his performance. And he has to be in the reckoning for England, not only because of his amount of goals he's scored, but he's the type of player that I would suggest Gareth Southgate would be looking at. A player that you could look at and go, he could play in England's system, which will help him as well. He's been at so-called bigger clubs in terms of Liverpool, so he ticks that box as well. And he's just on a great run of form, and it's just nice to see a player that's had injuries and problems playing with a smile on his face.
Yeah, I mean, this sounds like the most obvious statement in the world, and in a way it is, but for him particularly, he has to keep scoring goals and keep pressing his case, because I think when you're at what's the kindest way of putting this, a less fashionable club, which I think Southampton probably fall into that category, you don't tend to get the kind of leeway of getting in a squad and keep getting in, even if your form's a little bit fluctuating. You have to really force it. And we saw that, I'm sure Dean will recall from his time, the last time we had a striker like that, Ricky Lambert, really had to keep on scoring to get back in the England squad time and again. Whereas there were other people in the squad in and around him at that time who could have dips in form and would still get in kind of automatically. So I think for Danny, it sounds obvious, but it really is absolutely crucial for him just to keep scoring. He has to make it impossible for him to be left out, and then once he's in, then it's kind of his chance to take from there.
Yeah, I think had the Euros been held this summer, Danny Ings was almost a shoo-in, but now with it being pushed back, and there are also injuries to other key players for England such as Marcus Rashford and Harry Kane, who are both in action tonight, does their return to fitness and the fact the tournament's been pushed back a year hinder Ings' chances for the future?
Well, I think I would agree with you that I felt that he, as much as you could, sort of felt like he had one foot on the plane this summer because of his exceptional form and because of the circumstances around the injuries to other players. If everybody is fully fit, then it becomes more difficult for Danny Ings, is the reality. But you look at Harry Kane is always, if he's fit and in any kind of form, he justifiably is going to be in the squad. Rashford probably isn't too far away, and then depending on what system England play, obviously they've got the quick wingers, but if they're going to go for another forward or two, why not Danny Ings when you look at like a Callum Wilson being in and around? Well, why not? I mean, I think Southgate likes Tammy Abraham as well, and so if Tammy Abraham's on form, maybe that's another one that potentially gets ahead of Ings. But you can't underestimate the power of scoring goals for a striker in terms of getting in an England squad, and that is going to be his only way. It is a long road from here to the Euros, given when they are now, but he started off again in great form, so why can't he continue? He is in the prime of his career now. He's barely been this fit for this long in one period of time, and you can see the benefits now. And as Dean said, he's at home. He is home. He loves Southampton. He obviously is happy in his surroundings, in his life. He's living the dream as far as he's concerned right now. So why can't it continue?
I think you're right, Adam. I think it's just his fitness. If he can keep himself fit and he can keep consistently performing like he has, he'll be on that plane. Because as an England manager, as an England squad, if you need as many options as you can, and people that can score goals, it's the hardest thing to do in football. And Danny is a finisher. He's showing that if he gets chances, he scores goals. So if he's playing in the England team and he gets chances, he'll still score. So I think he's got a really, really good chance. The only question mark would be, unfortunately for him, is his fitness. So if he can keep fit, I definitely think he'll be part of that squad.
Well, let's bring the fans into this conversation now and have a little look at what's being said across socials. Loads of comments flying in. Very happy fans, as you can imagine. Zeal, who's joining us on YouTube, hello to you, has said, brilliant second half by the team. Proud of everyone. Bryce Lee has said, great win, Saints. Time to get some sleep here in Australia. It's 5 a.m. Good win. I'm always so impressed with those of you who stay awake. Thank you very much. Louis said, solid performance. Looks as if they've drilled this formation formation to perfection now, and with Hasenhüttl signing a new 4-year deal, it potentially shows a promising future. Carl, who's joining us on Facebook, has said, watching from Rio de Janeiro, superb win today. I think we're safe from relegation this season. Ian, hello, also joining us on Facebook. Good evening. He says, fine performance, Saints. It certainly was, very clinical indeed. Dave Robinson is also joining us on Facebook. He said, great result. Norwich looked awful, but Saints looked clinical. And a final one here from Angela then. She said, well done, lads. Good display and a great win. Keep it going. It's a very happy fans at home, and why wouldn't they be? It's a perfect way to restart the Premier League. And speaking of that, let's remind ourselves, shall we, of how that win tonight kind of affects the Premier League table. We've moved in to 13th position there, and Norwich still sitting rock bottom. Just having a look at that table now then, Dean and Adam, where can we go from here?
Interesting. I still think, can you get to that 40 mark point? Can you get another win? How quickly can we get that win? That would be really important, and would be good for the atmosphere, and the positivity. Means that you can finish the season, maybe experiment a little bit with the squad, maybe bring a few more youngsters in, maybe give them a feel of the first team football in the Premier League. But a top 10 finish, if that's possible, if Southampton could finish in the top 10, I think that would be a brilliant season, especially how the season started, how they recovered from things. There's been different obstacles during the season. So a top 10 finish, if possible, would be really good. But getting to that 40-point mark straight away now, within the next couple of games, would be a big achievement as well, and make the rest of the season very enjoyable.
Yeah, I mean, that 40-point mark is just kind of that psychological barrier, isn't it? I think the chances are they might have enough already. You wouldn't want to take that for granted, but they might do. They might, another point or two probably is enough, given everything. But I mean, they just need to. We said it before the game, but they've got every right to be looking up the table now, and not just over their shoulder, and seeing who they can catch. Try and pick off one at a time. You never know where you might end up. I mean, a top half finish is not out of the question. And given the way they played tonight, I mean, I wouldn't think Arsenal are relishing too much turning up at St Mary's next week. To be completely honest, especially as they'll have had to play an extra game as well. And why not? Why can't they upset a few teams? I mean, this is part of the beauty of it, and part of the beauty of kind of Hasenhüttl. It has been exciting. It's been unpredictable, as we saw by the sort of start of the season and the way some of the results went against them. But then, they've also picked up huge periods of momentum under Hasenhüttl, and that's kind of been a hallmark of his short stay at Saints so far. So, in terms of the league table, I would say, almost safe now. Virtually there, so look up and don't look over your shoulder anymore. Don't worry about it. Just look forward with optimism for the remaining 8 games.
Looking at the potential for a top half finish, and as you said, breaking that 40-point barrier, how will that help them moving forward into next season? Now, hopefully, we're not involved in a relegation scrap.
Well, it can breed confidence. It can breed belief. Really can. Finishing a season well and then going into the next season is a major thing. And the one thing that you can see from the players now and the club, there's real structure in how they play. The shape of the team, the understanding of the players of how to play was really evident today. And that was a difference between them and Norwich. Norwich would look like they lost a bit of concentration, lost a bit of discipline, but Southampton had that all the way through. Even when it was 3-0 and comfortable, they were going for another goal. And that just shows the hunger in the players, the desire in the players. So finishing the season strongly with that mentality can set up a really exciting season next year, I think.
And it's all about momentum as well, isn't it, to an extent? I think that's the thing in any sport. Getting downward momentum is hard to get out of. Once you start losing games, it's very hard to imagine where your next win's going to come from, and every single fixture looks difficult no matter who it's against. Once you're winning games, as Dean will well know, as he went through the leagues with Saints, we'll remember that journey. you must have stepped on the field every time you played thinking you were going to win. It didn't matter who the opposition was, kind of irrelevant really. You just get that momentum, and there's something about it in sport that that is just, it's just so, if you could bottle it, you'd make a lot of money, that's for sure. And for Saints, you know, we are likely to have a very short turnaround probably between the end of this season and the start of next season. I don't think the players are going to be packing their bags, are they, and going off for a 6 weeks holiday in the sun. But so with that in mind, the seasons are going to kind of almost meld together. So any momentum you can build now kind of sets you up perfectly for the beginning of whatever the next season is, and however that looks. And so it's probably even more crucial to end this season well now than it has been at any point in the past, really.
Well, the general consensus online is that we can be very optimistic for a positive future. Lots more comments coming in from very happy fans indeed. Dom Carroll's commented on Facebook saying, I knew Danny and Redders would score. James has also got in touch. He said, the team just looked so fit, sharp, energetic and up for it. Amazing in comparison to other teams restarting the league. That's a really good point, isn't it?
Yeah.
Luke's also said, Redmond makes us a different side. Yeah, he was quality tonight. Terry said, Armstrong, player of the match for me. Great effort. Now, Rosemary knows how to enjoy a football match. She said, wine bottle empty, chocolate all eaten, 3 goals and 3 points. Perfect. That is the way you do it, Rosemary. And Andrew Williams, also watching on Facebook, has said, it was brilliant to win tonight after a superb second half performance. The goals were all superb. And just as importantly, we kept a clean sheet. So there's this real aura that, you know, very happy fans, but also feeling very, very optimistic moving forward.
Yeah, it's a great first step as the league returns to moving forward. And I suppose just lastly, looking at our opponents tonight, are Norwich finished?
You know, you never say a team was finished, but you know, they're probably favourites to go down now, just from the fact that they look flat. They look like they'd lost belief. They looked a little bit immature as a team. Didn't look like there was many leaders out there and experience of this level of football, or experience of being within a relegation battle. So it's going to be difficult for the manager. You know, they've had a long period off now. They need to get the sharpness and fitness back, but you know, they've got some tough fixtures, and they would have identified, like we said before, this one as a game that they needed to win. They needed to get 3 points to build that momentum that we just spoke about again. So yeah, it's going to be difficult for them, and I would probably say that, yeah, they're going to go down. So how they finish the season, again, we just spoke about it, will set them out for next year. But yeah, they're struggling, I would suggest.
Yeah, completely agree. I can't really make any argument for a way back from here, other than just saying it's not impossible, but I can't logically make an argument for how I can see them staying up. You know, when you've had that break and you come back, and that's kind of the sort of response that you've got. I mean, where are you going to get the points from? They probably need to win, what do we think, 4, probably 5 of their last 8. I mean, that's obviously form that they haven't got close to over the first 30 games of the season, so it's pretty hard to imagine they're going to do it now.
Well, thank you very much, chaps, to Dean and Adam for providing your insight tonight. It's a big thank you from me and from Kenzie for tuning in. Our next match is on Thursday the 25th of June against Arsenal at St Mary's. It is a 6 o'clock kickoff again, so do join us then, and we'll see you soon.